I recognize the member for Mississauga-Lakeshore.
Speaker, I move second reading of Bill 219, an act to amend the Insurance Act.
Mr. Cuzzetto has moved second reading of Bill 219, an act to amend the Insurance Act. Pursuant to Standing Order 101, the member has 12 minutes for his presentation.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm honoured to present Bill 219, the Life Settlements and Loan Act. This is my first private member's bill, but it is not the first time this bill, or a version of it, has been debated in this House. Michael Cole, the former member for Eglinton Lawrence, introduced Bill 162 on life settlements in 2017. The former member for Carleton, Mississippi Mills, introduced Bill 20 on life insurance in 2018. In fact, detailed regulations were drafted to allow life settlements in Ontario 20 years ago. Now, I think the time for this bill has come. Bill 219 would modernize the Insurance Act and finally correct what is, hopefully, all members will agree, a real injustice that affects over 1 million seniors in Ontario. I'd like to start by telling you about a few of them. In February, earlier this year, I hosted a pre-budget consultation in my riding with Minister of Finance. It was held at the Carmen Corbison Centre, right next to the Mississauga Senior Centre. And many seniors attended. Warren Horwitz, a former employee of the life insurance Primeric, came in his wheelchair, even with advanced multiple sclerosis. He told us his only remaining asset is his life insurance, but Primeric was offered him nothing for his policy. And in Ontario, he's not allowed to sell it to anyone else. If Warren lived in the US or UK, Europe or Japan, or even just across the border in Quebec, he would be able to access the full fair market value of his policy, but not here in Ontario. Arthur Burford, a 95-year-old World War II veteran, told us he had a full paid-up life insurance policy, but no children or other family. He does not need the death benefit. His life insurance policy is a major asset, but in Ontario, it provides no financial benefit until his death. Leonard Goldman, a former president of the Toronto chapter of the Financial Advisor Association, also attended. He gave us a book he wrote a few years ago titled, "Why Are Canadian Seniors Worth More Dead Than Alive?" In Ontario, it's because over 85 years ago, at the height of the Great Depression, this Assembly passed a law, Section 115 of the Insurance Act, which prohibits the transfer of life insurance policies to anyone other than your own insurance company. Now, because of this monopoly, over 80% of our life insurance policies lapse or are cancelled in Ontario. Over 80% of the time, the death benefit is never paid. After paying their premiums for decades, most Ontario seniors receive a nominal cash surrender value, often just a small fraction of the fair market value of their policy. Sometimes, like Warren, they receive nothing at all. Speaker, that's tens of millions of dollars going to multinational insurers every year instead of Ontario seniors and their families. I know my friends on the other side share my concerns about this, and I understand the original reason for this Section 115 was to protect life insurance from bankruptcies. During the Great Depression in the 1930s, now, Speaker, the situation is reversed. It's our seniors who need protection. Sun Life recently raised their premiums on some of these policies by up to 27%. For seniors living on fixed incomes and now dealing with the additional expense of COVID-19, their premiums are increasingly unaffordable. One of my constituents, Paul Tyers, the founder of Canadian Life Settlements, tell me since COVID-19 pandemic began, questions from seniors about life settlements have surged. Milan Breakwell, an 89-year-old retiree who also attended our consultation in February, wrote to me recently, "I want you now to appreciate the dire financial straits that many of the fellow seniors find themselves in as a result of COVID-19, he wrote. Ontario seniors, like me, want access to use our life insurance policy in our own best interest. Speaker, some members will remember Morris Adams, who visited this place 3 years ago to ask members to support Bill 162, which was Michael Cole's bill at the time. Morris is now 94 years old. He can't join us today because of COVID-19, but he's still working part-time as a tax accountant to help pay his living expenses and for his wife, Ruthie's caregiver. He said he's pleased to see we are debating Bill 219 today. It is an important bill, he says, that's got a good proposal. Bernard Jordan, President of the United Senior Citizens of Ontario, puts it this way: on behalf of 200,000 Ontario seniors, the time has come to respect the rights of consumers, in this case, mostly seniors, by modernizing the Ontario Insurance Act and eliminate the gross imbalance created by Section 115, in which so many seniors are insured rich but cash poor. Speaker, the Canadian Life and Health Insurance Association has raised concerns about fraud and abuse. But fraud is a reality throughout the financial sector, and life settlements can be well regulated, just like other financial products. When I met with the CLHIA yesterday, they couldn't provide a single example of life settlement fraud in Canada. There have been examples of fraud in the U.S., but the National Association of Insurance Consumers reported in 2018 that less than 0.1% of life insurance complaints were due to life settlements, and 99.9% of the complaints were against insurances themselves. Speaker, I agree. Consumer protection must be paramount. That's why regulators around the world have developed a set of common-sense safeguards. I'll take a moment to outline a few of them, which are now included in Bill 219. A. New Section 115, subsection 2, would require all agreements to be presented in a manner that ensures full, true, and plain disclosure. A. New subsection 3 would create a 10-day cooling-off period during which agreements may be cancelled with no legal or financial penalties. This gives the consumer the opportunity to consult with financial and legal advice. A 10-day free look is a common in the industry of life insurance contracts. It's similar, Speaker, to the cooling-off period we provide in many other areas as well, like buying a pre-constructed condo in Section 73 of the Condominium Act. Bill 219 also includes a new subsection 4, which would require the Financial Service Regulator Authority to provide oversight using well-established international best practice to protect consumers. Speaker, real need to protect our seniors cannot justify, and in fact, it is undermined by the monopoly that life insurance are granted in the current Section 115. Adam Belinsky, a Canadian who now works in the American life settlement and loan sector, says, and I agree, that Section 15 assumes consumers do not have the ability to make their own decisions, and it is assumed that the monopoly is setting a policy surrender value in somehow better than the consumer, then accessing to the real fair market value, which is typically 4 to 8 times higher, according to the studies of over 9,000 policies at the London School of Business. Speaker, that doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to my friend, Frank Stendardo, President of the Mississauga Senior Council. He wrote to me on behalf of 12,000 seniors in Mississauga, including our former member for Mississauga South, Margaret Marlin. She emphasized their strong support for Bill 219, an open, well-regulated second market, he wrote, would be beneficiary for the life insurance policy owners. In Ontario, especially for seniors who can no longer afford their premiums or no longer need the death benefit, earlier this year, Nova Scotia banned life settlements based on fear that seniors could be exploited. Again, they gave no example and passed their bill in 11 days. Daniel Cajon, who works in the industry, didn't find out about the bill until after it had passed. Speaker, that is unfortunate, because this is a serious issue and there should be an opportunity for everyone to share their views. With the approval of the House, I look forward to public hearings on Bill 219. Speaker, to conclude, I want to be clear. I am not suggesting life settlements or loans are the right for everyone. They are not. And I don't suggest that all insurance companies are taking advantage of Section 115 to exploit their policyholders. Again, they are not. According to CLHIA, its objective, it is fostering equitable principles among life insurance companies. The association guidelines are designed that they say to reinforce the best interest of consumers. Well, Speaker, modernizing Section 115 is the best interest of Ontario consumers, allowing Ontario seniors to access a fair market value of their life insurance policy in a well-regulated secondary market would both protect Ontario seniors and put hundreds of millions of dollars back in their pockets, money that they rightfully theirs, particularly now when so many, like Warren, are struggling due to COVID-19. The option of life settlements or life loans could make their lives easier and more affordable. If passed, Bill 219 would bring Ontario laws in line with the rest of the world. It is indefensible that seniors in the US and UK, Europe and Japan, and across the border in Quebec can sell their policy, but here in Ontario, Warren, Arthur, Morris, and Milan, so many more are left without the option. And Leonard Goldman wrote, "There are worth more dead than alive." And I ask the members to help to change this today with Bill 219. Thank you.